The first time my father saw his grandson, the little boy looked right past him and asked me who the strangers were. It happened in my backyard, under green birthday streamers and a plastic dinosaur banner I had taped to the fence myself. My nephew Micah had frosting on his chin and water balloon pieces stuck to his shoes. He was 3 years old that day, bright-eyed, laughing, safe. Then my parents walked in like they had not missed every single day of his life. My mother carried a white casserole dish with a chipped rim, the same kind she used to bring to church dinners when she wanted everyone to know she was a good woman. My father stood behind her with his hands in his pockets, scanning my small yard like he was looking for a place he still belonged. Micah ran to me, tugged my shirt and whispered, "Aunt Nora, who are they?" I looked at my father's face when he heard that. A stranger. That was what he was to the child his own pride had erased. Before I could answer, the back gate opened again. A man stepped through carrying a wrapped gift under one arm. Micah turned, his whole face lighting up. "Daddy!" He ran across the grass and jumped into the man's arms. My father froze. My mother's serving spoon stopped halfway over the casserole. Because the man holding Micah was Andrew Reed, Pastor Thomas Reed's son, the golden boy of Grace Fellowship Church, the man my parents never let my sister name. And in that single breathless moment, every lie they had protected for 3 years began to fall apart. But the truth did not start in that backyard. It started on a rainy Wednesday night at 11:14, when my phone buzzed on my kitchen counter, and my sister's name lit up the screen. Lauren did not say hello. She only said, "Nora, can I come over?" Her voice sounded small, like something had been crushed inside it. Rain was hitting my apartment windows hard enough to blur the streetlights outside. I opened my front door before she even knocked. She stood on my porch soaked through, one backpack hanging from her shoulder, one hand pressed around a folded ultrasound photo. Her mascara had run down her cheeks in 2 dark lines. Her lips were trembling so badly she could barely speak. I pulled her inside without asking questions. Some nights do not need questions. They need towels, warm tea, and a door locked against the people who should have loved you. Lauren sat on my old couch, her wet shoes leaving marks on the rug. She kept staring at the ultrasound picture like it was the only proof that something inside her was still real. "What happened?" I asked softly. She swallowed. "Dad said I'm not his daughter anymore." The words sat between us, cold and sharp. Then she added, "Mom opened the front door and told me to get out." I had seen my parents angry before. I had seen my mother's face go tight when Lauren laughed too loudly at church, or when she changed college majors, or when she came home with paint on her jeans because she had helped decorate a community theater set instead of attending women's ministry. But throwing out a pregnant daughter in the rain? That was different. That was not discipline. That was cruelty dressed up as righteousness. Lauren was 23, 17 weeks pregnant. She had no ring, no money, no plan, and no one in that house willing to listen long enough to ask if she was scared. I sat beside her and took the ultrasound photo from her shaking fingers. The baby was no bigger than a pear. "You're staying here," I said. She looked at me like she wanted to argue, but she had no strength left. "That's not a question," I added. Her face broke then. She leaned into me and cried with her whole body, the kind of crying that sounds like something being torn loose. I held her until the kettle screamed in the kitchen. And while I held her, I did not know that the name she was too afraid to say would one day bring both our parents and a pastor to their knees. Our family was known in town for all the wrong kinds of goodness. My father, Frank Bennett, was a deacon at Grace Fellowship. He wore clean shirts, polished shoes, and the kind of quiet authority people mistook for wisdom. My mother, Diane, led the women's ministry. She organized meal trains, charity drives, and prayer circles with a smile so perfect it looked painted on. Every Sunday we sat in the same pew. 3rd row from the front. Left side. My mother believed people were always watching, and she lived like the whole world had a clipboard. I was the reliable daughter. The one with the steady job at the hospital, the paid bills, the quiet apartment, the sensible shoes. I was 32 and invisible in the way responsible daughters often become invisible. Lauren was different. She was warm, creative, restless. She felt everything too deeply and trusted people too quickly. My mother called her a handful when she was polite and a problem when she was not. At Sunday dinner 2 weeks before that rainy night, Lauren tried to tell the truth. I was there. So were my Aunt Caroline and Uncle Peter, because my mother liked witnesses when the family looked good. The roast was on the table. The potatoes were cooling. My father was talking about church repairs, and my mother was cutting green beans into tiny perfect pieces. Lauren put down her fork. I need to tell you something. The table went quiet. I'm pregnant. My father's chair slammed back so hard it hit the wall. He did not ask who the father was. He did not ask if she was safe. He did not ask if she was afraid. He just looked at his youngest daughter and said, "You are no daughter of mine." 5 words. That was all it took to split our family in half. My mother moved slower, which somehow made it worse. She folded her napkin, placed it beside her plate, stood up and walked to the front door. Then she opened it and pointed outside. "Get out of my house." Lauren's face went white. "Mom," I said. "She's your daughter." My mother looked at me without blinking. "Not anymore." Aunt Caroline stared into her glass of iced tea like she could hide from what she was already planning to repeat later. Then my mother walked back to Lauren, reached for the small pearl earrings in her ears, and unclipped them one by one. They had belonged to our grandmother. "These are for women in this family who know how to behave," she said. That was the moment something in me went still. I stood up, grabbed Lauren's coat from the hallway and took her hand. My father did not stop us. My mother did not call after us. We walked past the untouched roast, past the family photos on the wall, past the front door my mother was still holding open like she was doing us a favor. Rain hit us before we reached the driveway. Lauren clutched my hand so tightly my fingers hurt. I did not pull away. The next morning my mother called at 7:15. Her voice was calm. Too calm. "Bring Lauren back to apologize, and we can discuss this like adults." I was standing in my kitchen, stirring oatmeal while Lauren slept on my couch with her knees pulled to her chest. "She has nothing to apologize for," I said. A pause. Then my mother's voice hardened. "If you take her side, do not expect help from us." I looked at the couch. And my sister. At the damp backpack by the door. At the ultrasound photo lying on the coffee table under a mug. Like I was trying to keep the whole future from blowing away. "Then we'll figure it out," I said. And I hung up. That morning I checked my bank account. $14,211. That was everything. Rent, groceries, prenatal vitamins, doctor visits, gas, diapers. I sat at my little kitchen table with a notebook and did the math 3 times. If I took extra shifts, stopped eating lunch out, canceled my gym membership and prayed nothing broke, we could survive for a while. Not forever, but long enough to breathe. So I called my supervisor and asked for more hours. Tuesday nights. Saturday mornings. Whatever she could give me. She said yes without asking why, and I was grateful enough to almost cry. The first few months were not dramatic. They were worse. Drama has sound. This was quiet. It was Lauren vomiting before sunrise and whispering sorry through the bathroom door. It was me counting grocery money in the car before walking into the store. It was both of us pretending not to notice when women from church turned down another aisle after seeing her belly. It was my father texting only once. "Talk some sense into your sister." I wrote back, "Talk some sense into your wife." He never replied. The town learned fast. Towns always do. At the grocery store, old church friends looked at Lauren's stomach and then looked away. At the hospital, I heard nurses lower their voices when I passed. Aunt Caroline came by one afternoon with a white casserole dish from my mother saying, "She still loves you girls." Like love could be baked with noodles and dropped off by messenger. I thanked her, put the dish in the refrigerator, and let it sit there for 9 days. No one ate it. No one touched it. On the 10th day I scraped it into the trash. Lauren saw me do it. She did not say anything. She just leaned against the counter, one hand on her belly, and closed her eyes. The worst came from the church. Dr. Patrice Coleman, one of my co-workers, told me in the hospital break room. Patrice was older than me, sharp-eyed, steady, and not the type to carry gossip unless it mattered. She closed the door behind her. "Nora, you need to know what Pastor Reed said yesterday." I felt my stomach drop. Pastor Thomas Reed had stood at the pulpit and preached about a young woman who brought shame to her family through poor choices. He never said Lauren's name. He did not need to. Everyone knew. My mother sat in the front pew and nodded. Patrice said she walked out. I couldn't sit there, she told me. Not while he used your sister like a warning sign. I went to my car after that and sat behind the wheel for 10 minutes. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just gripped the steering wheel until my hands hurt. That night I came home and found Lauren asleep on the couch, one palm resting over her stomach. Her phone was on the coffee table, still lit from a message. I did not mean to look. But the screen was bright, and the contact name was only one letter. The message preview said, "I think about him every day." I turned the phone face down. I did not unlock it. I did not ask. But something cold moved through me. There was someone out there. Someone Lauren was protecting. Or hiding from. At 32 weeks, her blood pressure spiked. I found her on the bathroom floor, sweating, gripping the sink. I checked her pulse, then drove her to the emergency room with one hand on the wheel, and the other ready to reach for her if she fainted. The doctor said bed rest. No more shifts at the diner. No stress. No long standing. No pretending she was fine. That left me as the only income. That night, sitting in the hospital hallway, I texted my mother. Lauren is in the hospital. Blood pressure complications. The baby may come early. The message showed as read at 9:41. I stared at the screen. 1 minute passed. Then 5. Then 10. No reply. Not even a prayer emoji from the woman who prayed over strangers in public. The baby came 6 weeks later. Micah Bennett entered the world at 6:47 on a gray Tuesday morning with strong lungs, dark curls, and tiny fists that held on like he already knew life would not hand him anything gently. I was the only person in the room holding Lauren's hand. No parents in the hallway. No flowers. No proud grandparents. When the nurse asked for an emergency contact besides me, Lauren looked away. "Just Nora," I said. The nurse wrote my name twice. That was how Micah's life began. With his mother crying, his aunt standing guard, and an empty space where family should have been. The first year almost broke us, but not in one clean snap. It was slow. Formula cans lined the counter. Laundry never ended. Bills came faster than paychecks. I worked double shifts until my feet throbbed. Lauren studied at night with Micah asleep against her chest, because she was determined to become a nursing assistant and never depend on anyone who could throw love back in her face. We made a life from scraps. Micah's first smile happened at 8 weeks, crooked and gummy. His first tooth came in angry. His first word was not mama. It was Nora, or something close to it, and I cried into a dish towel where no one could see me. Lauren still never said the father's name. I learned not to push. But Micah grew, and the truth grew with him. His curls thickened. His jaw became square and stubborn. His eyes were not Goodwin eyes. Not Bennett eyes either. They belonged to someone I had seen before, though I could not place where. Then one morning, while Micah stacked plastic blocks on the floor, Lauren sat across from me at the kitchen table and asked, "Do you think keeping someone away can ever be the right thing?" I set my coffee down. "Someone from Micah?" Her eyes filled. She did not answer. I said, "That depends. Are you protecting him, or are you protecting yourself from what happens when he knows?" She picked up Micah and carried him to his room. The question stayed in the air after she left. 2 months later I found the answer. Lauren was at work. Micah was at daycare. I was putting folded clothes into her dresser when her nightstand drawer stuck. I pulled a little harder, and something slid forward from beneath a stack of receipts. A letter. 3 pages folded so many times the creases had turned soft. Blue ink. No stamp. My hands went cold before I read the first line. I knew I should put it back. I knew it was not mine. But my sister had been carrying this secret for almost 2 years, and I was tired of watching it eat her alive. I opened it. "Dear Andrew." The room went silent. Not actually silent. The washer was running in the hall. A car passed outside. Micah's toy train clicked somewhere under the couch. But inside me everything stopped. Andrew Reed. Pastor Thomas Reed's son. The golden boy who had gone to Germany on an engineering scholarship. The son of the man who had stood in church and shamed my pregnant sister in front of half the town. I kept reading. "I know your father told you not to contact me. I know you think I moved on. I didn't. I'm 17 weeks pregnant, and the baby is yours. I sat down on the edge of her bed. The paper shook in my hands. The letter said Pastor Reed had warned Andrew away from Lauren. It said Andrew's number stopped working after he left for Germany. It said Lauren was afraid if he came home, his father would destroy his future the way our parents had destroyed hers. The last line was written darker than the rest, like she had pressed the pen through the paper. I named him Micah because I needed to believe someone was still watching over us. I folded the letter slowly. Then I put it back exactly where I found it. That evening, after Micah was asleep, I sat across from Lauren at the kitchen table. 2 cups of tea cooled between us. I found the letter, I said. Her face lost all color. The one to Andrew Reed. For a long moment she did not move. Then she covered her mouth, and the secret she had carried alone finally stepped into the light. Lauren looked smaller in that kitchen chair than she had looked the night she arrived in the rain. For a moment she did not speak. She only stared at the 2 cups of tea between us as if the steam could hide her face. Then she whispered, "I was going to tell him." I waited. She pressed both hands flat on the table, like she needed to hold herself in place. Andrew and I were together for almost a year before he left for Germany. We kept it quiet because his father hated me. Pastor Reed said I was careless, that I would pull Andrew away from his future. Then Andrew left for the scholarship, and a week later, his number stopped working. Stopped working. She nodded. His father changed it. I found out later. He told Andrew I had moved on. He told him I was seeing someone else. My throat tightened. "And you never sent the letter." "If I sent it, Andrew would have come home," she said. "He would have given up everything. His father would have blamed me. Your parents already had. I thought if I stayed quiet, at least one of us could still have a life." I looked down the hallway toward Micah's room. His nightlight made a small yellow line under the door. "He has a son, Lauren." Her face broke. "I know." That was the first honest thing either of us had said about the secret. Not the whole truth, just the sharp edge of it. The next morning, I searched Andrew Reed's name before I had even finished my coffee. There he was. Structural engineer. Munich. A profile photo with dark curls, a square jaw, and the same serious eyes Micah had when he was trying to stack blocks higher than his head. Looking at his picture felt like seeing my nephew grown into a man. I sent one message. "This is Nora Bennett, Lauren's sister. There is something important you need to know. Please call me." 3 days passed. Nothing. The message showed red. I understood why he stayed silent. A message from the sister of the girl he thought had left him was not something a man would run toward. So I sent one more line. "It is about a child." He replied within 2 hours. "What child?" I called him that night. I told him about Lauren, about the pregnancy, about the night my parents threw her out, about Micah's birth, his curls, his stubborn little chin, the way he said my name before he could say half the alphabet. Andrew did not interrupt once. At first I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard him breathe. "My father told me she didn't want me," he said. "No. He told me she had someone else." "No." A long silence followed. Then his voice changed. It became quiet, steady, and full of something that sounded heavier than anger. "I'm coming home." 6 weeks later, I picked him up from the airport. Lauren could not do it. She tried. She changed her shirt 3 times, brushed her hair until her scalp turned red, then sat on the edge of the bathtub with tears running down her face. "What if he hates me?" she asked. "He flew across the ocean," I said. "That is not hate." Andrew looked different from the photo. Thinner. Tired. Like a man who had spent the whole flight replaying every lie he had ever believed. In the car, he kept his hands folded on his knees. "What does he look like?" he asked. "He has your hair," I said. "Your jaw. Lauren's temper." A small smile touched his face and disappeared. When we pulled into my apartment lot, Lauren was standing in the doorway with Micah on her hip. Micah was 20 months old then, wearing a green shirt with a dinosaur on it. His curls were wild from his nap. Andrew stepped out of the car. He did not walk at first. He just stood there, staring at the little boy who had his face. Micah looked back at him and said, "Hi." That one tiny word undid him. Andrew crossed the pavement, knelt down and covered his mouth with one hand. Lauren lowered Micah carefully, and for the first time, father and son looked at each other with no lie standing between them. Andrew did not grab him. He did not force anything. He just held out one shaking hand. Micah touched his finger. Then Andrew cried. Lauren cried too, but quietly, like she was afraid too much sound would break the moment. I stepped back into the kitchen and watched through the window. For nearly 2 years, I had been holding open a space for someone I had never met. Now he was there. And somehow that made me tired in a way I had never allowed myself to feel. The months after Andrew came home were not easy. Truth does not fix everything the moment it arrives. Sometimes it only shows you how much damage has been done. Andrew rented a small place close to us. He found work with a construction firm. He came every evening, learning Micah's routine like a man studying for the most important test of his life. Bath at 7. Story at 7:30. Lights out at 8. Lauren and Andrew spoke carefully at first. Some nights they sat at my table after Micah was asleep and talked in low voices about the years stolen from them. Some nights Lauren was angry. Some nights Andrew was. Most nights both of them were. But he showed up. That mattered. He changed diapers without being asked. He took Micah to doctor appointments. He kept a tiny pair of sneakers by his front door. He learned which stuffed animal had to be in the crib and which cup Micah refused to drink from. And slowly the word came. Daddy. Micah said it one Thursday evening while Andrew was tying his shoe. Andrew froze, lay still in his hand. Lauren turned away fast, but I saw her wipe her eyes. A month later, Andrew told his father. He went to Grace Fellowship on a Tuesday afternoon. Pastor Thomas Reed was in his office, the same room where he had counseled families, judged sinners, and protected his own name for 25 years. Andrew told us about it afterward, sitting at my kitchen table with a glass of water he never touched. I told him Micah is my son, Andrew said. I told him Lauren was pregnant before I left. I told him he stole my chance to know my own child. What did he say? Lauren asked. Andrew stared at the glass. He said he was protecting me. Lauren let out a bitter laugh. Andrew's jaw tightened. I told him he was protecting himself. Pastor Reed's real fear came out after that. Not Micah. Not Lauren. Not the truth. The church. If people find out, he had said, it will destroy everything. Andrew stood from the chair in that office and looked at his father as if he was finally seeing the man clearly. No, he said. What you did destroyed it. People finding out is just the receipt. By then, my parents had started hearing things too. A child with Andrew Reed's face. A daughter they had thrown away now building a life with the pastor's son. Church people asking questions my mother could not answer with a casserole dish. Aunt Caroline called first. Your parents miss you, she said, her voice sweet enough to rot teeth. They have had my number for almost 3 years. Your mother cries every night. Lauren cried in a hospital bed after her message was read and ignored. Did Mom cry then? Caroline went quiet. Then she said the real reason. People keep asking about the baby. There it was. Not love. Image. The same old God in a different dress. My mother came to my house the next Saturday carrying another white casserole dish. She stood on my porch looking older than I remembered. Her hair was grayer. Her hands trembled around the handles. For 1 second I almost felt sorry for her. Then she said, I want things back to normal. I looked at the dish. Normal was you opening the door while your pregnant daughter stood in the rain. Her mouth tightened. We were shocked. You were cruel. Your father was angry. He was proud. She looked away. I stepped closer, keeping my voice low. And Pastor Reed was not helping you. He was hiding his own son's part in the story. My mother blinked. What does that mean? I did not answer. Not yet. Some truths deserve witnesses. Micah's 3rd birthday was 5 weeks later. Lauren decided to let my parents come. Not because she forgave them. Because she wanted them to see what they had missed. By 2 o'clock my backyard was full of noise. Green balloons bounced against the fence. A dinosaur tablecloth covered the folding table. Children ran through the grass with plastic cups of juice. Lauren had baked a chocolate cake with green frosting because Micah had changed his favorite color again. Andrew arrived late because he had stopped to buy one more gift. My parents arrived first. My mother placed her casserole beside the cupcakes. Nobody touched it. My father stood near the gate, stiff and uncomfortable, like a guest at a funeral who had worn the wrong shoes. Micah ran to me and asked who they were. When I told him they were his grandparents, he only said, "Oh," and ran back to his balloons. My mother's face cracked. That was the first consequence. Not shouting. Not revenge. Just a child who did not know her. Then Andrew came through the gate. Micah screamed, "Daddy!" and ran straight into his arms. My father stared. His lips parted, but no sound came out. My mother's hand went to the edge of the table. "That's Andrew Reed," my father finally said. "Pastor Reed's boy." "Yes," I said. Andrew held Micah on his hip. Lauren moved beside him. My mother whispered, "He is the father?" "He has always been the father," I said. "You just threw Lauren out before she could say his name." The yard went quiet. Not because anyone asked for silence. Because truth has a way of pulling sound out of the air. My father tried to stand taller. "This changes things." I looked at him. "Why?" "Because his last name is respectable." His face hardened. "Nora." "No. You said she was no daughter of yours. Does Andrew Reed make her your daughter again?" He looked at Lauren, then at Micah, then at the ground. No answer. My mother began to cry, but the tears felt late. Too late to be clean. "If I had known." Lauren stepped forward. "If you had known what? That the father came from the right family? That the scandal belonged to the pastor too?" My mother flinched. Lauren's voice stayed soft, and that made it stronger. "I gave birth without you. My son learned to walk without you. He had birthdays without you. You missed all of that because you cared more about what people thought than whether I was safe." A car door slammed in the driveway. Pastor Thomas Reed walked through the gate in a navy blazer. His wife Margaret a few steps behind him. He looked around at the streamers, the cake, the children, the people watching. Then his eyes found Andrew holding Micah. "Son," he said, "this is not the place." Andrew did not move. "This is my son's birthday party. This is exactly the place." Pastor Reed turned toward my mother. "Diane, I told you this should be handled privately." I stepped forward. "For 3 years you handled it privately. You deleted Lauren's number from Andrew's phone. You told him she moved on. You stood at your pulpit and used her shame as a lesson while your own son was the father." Margaret Reed's face changed. Slowly. Like a door opening in a dark room. She looked at her husband. "You deleted the number?" Pastor Reed did not answer fast enough. That was answer enough. "You lied to Andrew?" she asked. He lowered his voice. "I was trying to protect our family." "No," Andrew said. "You were protecting your name." The pastor looked around the yard and saw what my parents had finally seen. Witnesses. Not a church crowd he could guide. Not people sitting in pews waiting to be told what to think. Just ordinary people watching a man meet the consequence of his own truth. Margaret stepped away from him. She walked to Micah, knelt in the grass and smiled through tears. "Hello, sweetheart," she said. "I'm your grandmother, Margaret." Micah looked at her, then at Andrew. Andrew nodded. Micah handed her a broken green balloon like it was a gift. She accepted it with both hands. Pastor Reed left without saying goodbye. My father followed soon after. My mother asked Lauren if she could hold Micah once. Lauren allowed it, not warmly, not cruelly, just carefully. Micah stayed in her arms for less than a minute before reaching back. "Mommy." That one word did what no speech could. My mother handed him over. She looked at Lauren, then really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. "I don't know how to fix this," she whispered. Lauren held Micah close. "Then stop pretending it is already fixed." My mother nodded once. Then she left. The casserole stayed on the table until the party ended. Untouched. Cold. Useless. 2 months later, Lauren and Andrew got married at the courthouse. No big church, no performance, no long aisle for people to whisper beside. Just a simple room, a clerk with tired eyes, Micah in a tiny bow tie, and me standing beside my sister as her witness. When Lauren signed her name, her hand did not shake. That mattered to me. She finished nursing school the next spring. I sat in the third row of the auditorium and watched her cross the stage in a cap and gown she had paid for with night shifts, exhaustion, and stubborn hope. Andrew stood beside me with Micah on his shoulders. When Lauren's name was called, Micah shouted, "That's my mommy." Everyone around us laughed. I cried without hiding it this time. Pastor Reed took a leave from Grace Fellowship. They called it rest. Everyone knew better. Margaret visited Micah every other Saturday. She brought cookies, picture books, and no excuses. She never asked to be forgiven quickly. She just showed up. My father sent one card. "Thinking of you." No apology. No confession. I put it in a drawer and did not call. My mother left the women's ministry. Whether it was shame, growth, or just another version of image, I could not tell. Maybe one day she would earn a place at the table. Maybe not. That choice belonged to Lauren, not me. One Saturday morning after the house had gone quiet, I opened the cabinet above my stove and found the old white casserole dish Aunt Caroline had brought years before. The first one. The one from my mother. I had kept it without knowing why. Maybe anger needs objects. Maybe grief does too. I ran my thumb along the chipped rim. For years, that dish had felt like proof of everything my mother could offer from a distance. Warm food without warmth. Concern without courage. Love without showing up when it mattered. I carried it to the donation box by the door. Then I walked back to the refrigerator. Micah had drawn a new family picture in green and yellow crayon. Lauren, Andrew, Micah, me, and a small smiling figure labeled Grandma Margaret. There was no Frank. No Diane. Not yet. Maybe someday. Maybe never. And for once that did not feel like my burden to carry. People think family is blood or last names or the photos hanging in a hallway. It is not. Family is the person who opens the door when everyone else closes one. It is the hand holding yours in a hospital room. It is the man who flies across the world when he learns he has a son. It is the grandmother who kneels in the grass and accepts a broken balloon like treasure. It is the sister who does not ask whether helping will cost too much. The people who love you do not wait until your life looks respectable before they stand beside you. They show up in the rain. They show up in the hospital. They show up before the truth makes it easy. My parents missed that part. I never will.